Hello again. 6 Valley teams started in the FCS playoffs. 5 of those still standing after the first round. 5 of the remaining 16 teams overall from the mighty Missouri Valley Football Conference. We are biased. I am biased toward the Valley. We just are, but it's been a good showing so far.
It has been, and just like we expected, there's a reason that we all felt like the Valley deserved a number like 6 teams in the playoffs, and so all you can hope for when you speak your mind on that is that they deliver on their part of it, and certainly week 1 they did.
All right, start with the number 1 seed. South Dakota State had a bye in the opening round. The Jacks will host Mercer on Saturday. Mercer, the number 2 team out of the Southern Conference, along with Furman this year. Furman beat Mercer during the regular season, 38-14. Mercer in the first round beat Gardner-Webb. Mercer's 9-3, good run-pass quarterback in Carter Peavy, who has 21 total touchdowns this season. Mercer's only FCS losses are the top 20 teams, Furman and Chattanooga, but they got to play at South Dakota State, where the Jacks have won 18 in a row at home over the last 3 seasons. South Dakota State, big favorite. I'm thinking 38-10, maybe Jackrabbits in this.
Yeah, good luck with that road trip, right? And your first experience in the Dakotas, really. 38-10, I think you're missing a touchdown. I think it's more like a 45-10 score. But to be honest, Mercer's a good football team. Don't get me wrong. And defensively, they kind of hang their hat on stop of the run, under 107 yards allowed per game. That'd be 5th best in the Missouri Valley Football Conference. But they don't play in the Missouri Valley Football Conference, where it's a ground and pound style for a lot of these teams. And South Dakota State certainly one of those, averaging 220 yards a game on the ground. And so I think that's where Mercer's going to run into trouble right off the get-go. And then even if they were to slow things down, I think they're going to see a guy in Mark Gronowski in that passing attack where they're just not accustomed to seeing that. And I think that's where, SDSU certainly can create separation in either one of those phases. I think they're just a better football team all around, and I think they coast into the next round.
All right, opposite the SDSU Mercer game is another Valley team, Youngstown State at Villanova. They are the co-champs in the Colonial Athletic Association. Youngstown scored 40 in the opening round, beat Duquesne 40-7. Villanova's 9-2. They've only got 1 FCS loss. That was to Albany, and Albany's the number 5 seed in the playoffs overall. Probably edge to Villanova in this one, I got to say. They only allow 18 points a game playing at home, but Youngstown has been a little up and down all year, but I don't know.
They have. They have certainly. When they've looked when they've looked good, they've looked really good. And then there've been some weeks where they're like, "What are you doing?" Yeah. But Doug Phillips has his team on the right trajectory and gets them back into the postseason. Looking at Villanova, you mentioned the 1 loss to Albany, and it's a good Great Danes team. That was a 31-10 decision at Albany, but then at the end of the year, they picked up a huge road win at Delaware, 35-7 to close the regular season, which was certainly impressive. They're 5-0 at home. And so Youngstown's certainly going to have its hands full in this one. And I think you look at Villanova, the thing that jumps off the page right away is that running game, over 220 yards per game on the ground. That's a strength for YSU defensively, though. The Penguins, one of several really, really top-end rush defenses from the Missouri Valley Football Conference. They allow less than 95 yards per game on the ground, 3rd best in the Valley, 7th best in all of FCS football. And I think that's right where we're going to see this one determined in the trenches. Can Villanova do what it does? Or can YSU stop that? Because I like a lot of pieces offensively for Youngstown in this game. I actually feel like the Penguins are going to win this game, but it's certainly questionable, and Villanova certainly deserves to be a top 8 seed.
Yeah, seeded for a reason after a great regular season. So Youngstown at Villanova coming up on Saturday. Staying in the top half of the bracket, you got Richmond at Albany, mentioned before, and then Southern Illinois out of the Missouri Valley at Idaho. Great matchup. Southern shut out Nichols 35-0 last week. Idaho, though, is the 4 seed overall. Southern Illinois is another team that's kind of been hard to get a handle on. Not a lot of offense late in the Valley games against South Dakota at North Dakota State. Idaho gives up 22 a game, but still the Vandals, I think, probably still get away with a win here. I don't know.
Yeah,
Again, my bias is showing because
it may be a little bit, but I do agree with you 100% on that. The Salukis have not allowed an offensive touchdown in either of their last 2 games. Of course, that's Indiana State and then Nichols in the opening round of the playoffs. But there's 4 times this year where that Salukis defense has not allowed an offensive touchdown. That's a much better unit. It's a reason that one of the reasons that, along with an FBS win over Northern Illinois, why Southern was able to get into this field. But the offense has been severely Jekyll and Hyde. And I think if you take away their win at Western Illinois, because let's face it, that is what it is, their other 5 road games, they averaged just about 16 points per game. And so that's my question with Southern Illinois coming into this game. You've got Anthony Woods, you've got Giovanni McCoy on the other side for Idaho. Those guys are going to put up some points. Can Nick Baker and the Salukis offense manage to match them? I'm not sure they can.
Yeah, Southern's defense is legit, but another great Valley Big Sky matchup in that game. All right, go to the bottom half of the bracket, and great matchups here as well in this round. You got Sacramento State at South Dakota. Coyotes are the 3 seed. Sac State went to North Dakota and won 42-35 in the first round of that game. I think they had 19 total drives. 11 of them went for touchdowns. Not a lot of punts in that game. And would have been fun to see UND go back to face South Dakota and see what could have happened there. But this might be more fun. Sac State can certainly score, obviously, but in their Big Sky losses, they gave up 35 to Idaho, 42 to Montana State, 34 to Montana. So what happens now?
And the problem with Sac State is they're a little dinged up in the secondary. They played without 5 guys in their secondary last week, and you saw what North Dakota was able to do in putting up 35 points. But Caden Bennett is an explosive dual threat guy at quarterback. He's been a little up and down at times, but he was outstanding last week in that win against the Fighting Hawks. And so he's the thing that makes this thing go. If he's having a good day, it's going to be a real interesting ball game. The other thing, defensively, we talked about the secondary, but the Hornets have been dinged up on the ground. UND hurt them badly, gashed them in the running game. They allow over 160 yards per game rushing. And so if South Dakota, which got some things unlocked in their regular season finale against Western Illinois, if they can continue that, I really like USD in this matchup. And, there's certainly a lot of pressure on them. First time they've ever been a top 8 seed. First time they've ever had a bye in the playoffs. But they're at home. They've been very, very good at home, aside from their game against South Dakota State. And so I do like the Oats in this one.
Coyote defense only giving up 15 a game. But what if they give up 21 a game? Do the Oats still win?
I do think they still win. I think they can get into a little bit of a back and forth. I mean, if Sac State were able to figure out how to put up a 30 on them, I think that could be scary for USD. I do think, though, Aiden Bauman, I don't know that Sac State is going to have the football enough times to score with that kind of regularity, if you know what I mean, because USD is a ball control team. If they're able to move the sticks and sustain some drives, shorten that game a little, that's been their recipe for success. If that continues in this game, as good as that defense has been, overall they're in a pretty good spot from a health standpoint. I think a lot of the parts here favor USD, and so I do like them. I don't think it's a runaway by any stretch. I do think they'll win, though.
Going to shake out between the Big Sky and the Valley. That's another great matchup there. In that same quadrant is the matchup of the second round, and another Valley Big Sky matchup. North Dakota State at Montana State. NDSU over Drake 66-3 in the first round. But now the Bison play their first playoff game since the spring of 2021 when they lost at Sam Houston State. Before that, you got to go back to 2010 before North Dakota State played a road playoff game. One of those was a win, at Montana State back in 2010. But this is weird to see the Bison go on the road.
It really is. And with a chance to make a little history, they can become the all-time leader in playoff victories in the FCS if they were able to get this done this week at Montana State. But I tell you what, if you like to watch quarterbacks run the football, Tom, boy, do they have a game for you in Bozeman this weekend, because Tommy Millott, Sean Chambers for Montana State, Cam Miller, Cole Payton for NDSU, those 4 players have combined for over 2,200 yards rushing and 38 touchdowns on the ground. And so, very similar styles in that way, and that they like to hurt you with their quarterback. And you've got a couple of efficient guys through the air in Miller, Chambers, Millott, doesn't matter. But who can run the football best with their quarterbacks? That could be a big part of the difference here.
I don't like to watch it all that much.
You're not alone on that.
As a defense, you hate to see running quarterbacks. But one line as the highest scoring game in this round at over 60 points between these two teams. Hard to believe because of the defenses that we know about, but Montana State leads the FCS, averaging 40.5 a game. North Dakota State's averaging almost 39 a game. These are great offenses.
Yeah, that scoreboard could certainly get a workout. I mean, I think you look at considering how these teams have been playing. Obviously, Montana State was tremendously good at the beginning of the year. NDSU has been much better down the stretch. I think they're playing the better football right now. And so that's part of the question. Does the trip to Bozeman neutralize that part or that advantage for North Dakota State right now a little bit? We'll see what the weather has to do with it. You know, but that's the one that I think most people are genuinely interested to see what happens.
Going to be so good. All right, rounding out the bottom of the bracket, you got Chattanooga at Furman. Furman won that regular season matchup 17-14 late in the regular season. Then Delaware at Montana. The Grizz are the 2 seed. They are a double-digit favorite there. And again, it's hard not to look past this round and see what kind of matchups could be coming up, but this is going to be a fantastic round of games on Saturday.
Yeah, I can't wait. I mean, we wait all year to get to this part and to see the tournaments and see the best teams in the country playing each other so that we can eliminate some of these biases in these discussions that we've had, because they black and white it for us. There's a winner and there's a loser, and this round certainly helps us answer a few of those questions anyway before we even get to the quarterfinals.
All right, we'll see you out there.